Okay, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Nerd Feed Cast. This is a third episode. We're three in now.
That's
making
right.
good progress. There are a lot of topics to go through this week, and we'll try to jump from one topic to another real quick because there's a lot has happened this week. I think it's only fair to cover everything. Most weeks we don't have anything, no news. There are a lot of news that we have had to remove from the script really because we can't really would be going on for like 3 hours. But I think the best place to start would be to talk about the latest episode of Loki. What did you think about episode 5?
Well, guys, like my good friend said, we're back, episode 3, and if you're sticking around at this point for our third episode, then it means we're definitely doing something right, okay? So thank you for your support and make sure you're tuning in every single week. Now, guys, like my friend just said, episode 5, Loki, season 2, just dropped, and I have to say, I am wow. I was just telling my good friend here that I honestly feel as though it's my favorite episode this season. I feel as though it might be my favorite episode in the entire show, but I did really place the finale of season 1 in a very high place as well. So I'm sort of picking between these two, but essentially this episode starts off with a complete meltdown. Everything is in ruins. Everything is absolute chaos. We see that after the events of episode 4, where we essentially experience a big bang and a reset, if you like, where everything across all timelines, across all space, is sort of just wiped into nothingness. But we're beyond that point, okay? And we see Loki time slipping again. Now, his time slipping isn't just the way that we saw it in the last episode. He's time slipping. It's completely out of control at this point. And what we see is Loki sort of walking through the abandoned headquarters of the TVA, and we see everything around him. I'm gonna call the phenomenon this spaghettification, or being spaghettified. Everything is being spaghettified, and it led me to think, what's actually happening here? I mean, how is this different to the snap in the Avengers movies? Well, obviously you can make the point that one was caused by the Infinity Stones, and this is caused by the sort of timelines collapsing, an individual being in a time where they shouldn't actually be, and just everything falling apart. So for me, just the way that this episode started was absolutely amazing. We get the tone of the episode straight away, and it starts off really strong. And I particularly, I honestly felt as though it was one of the best beginnings of the entire series so far. And the episode obviously progressed, and we got to see so many amazing things across this episode. But that beginning for me was something quite special, and we're going to carry on throughout the entire episode. But instead of going through the episode chronologically, I'm really going to be picking on the key points and the things that we sort of felt stood out the most. So how did you feel about the beginning of the episode?
No, I really enjoyed like the building blocks of that episode. I think they were trying to set something up. Obviously, there's this mystery of what's just happened after the explosion.
Yeah.
Everyone else disappeared, but Loki's still around. Why is that the case? And then he's just walking around TVA and stuff, and no one's really there. So there's obviously that mystery, and it keeps you intrigued about what's going to happen in this episode. And then you mentioned him time slipping again, and that leads him to these places where he finds Mobius and Obi, and B-15. Even that is intriguing. Why has time slipping started again? You think that they fixed it.
Yeah.
Episode 1 they fixed it, but now it's happening again. What's different now?
Yeah.
Also, none of these people recognize him. I think down the episode you see that Sylvie does recognize him. But
Yeah.
what makes Sylvie obviously different to the others? She also disappeared
Yeah.
with the others, so you
Yeah.
would assume that maybe she got reset as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the whole episode was very intriguing. I aired some disappointment as well, even though I thought the episode was really really fun. We're 5 episodes in, but there are a lot more questions and answers going into the finale.
Yeah.
Which isn't really for something that's only like 6 episodes long. You don't really want to do that. Obviously, a season needs to be. I understand I understand maybe trying to tease like a third season or whatever,
Yeah.
or maybe something that would start in this season gets answered in the next season. But in my opinion, a season should be self-containing.
Yeah.
Which isn't really. It's looking like all the answers will be given in episode 6, which is a lot, really. I mean, if you think about it, to spend an hour answering all the questions that they've raised throughout the season, it won't be enough, I think, to cover everything. Maybe some of it will spill on to a season 3 if there is a season 3. Yeah. My disappointment was in that, where there's still a lot of like loose threads that we don't really like. Why is Loki specifically time slipping?
Yeah.
Why is this exclusively happening to Loki? And all that. I hope that they do address most of the questions like in episode 6. But I thought in general, long story short, I thought the episode was very good. But given that it was like the 5th episode in 6 episode season, there's still, I think it was lacking a little bit of sort of closing some chapters down, I guess.
No, I mean that's definitely a really good way to sort of approach the episode and review the episode. For me, I definitely do share some of those sentiments. But touching on some of the things that I really enjoyed about this episode was we get a little more of the theory behind some of these, abstract concepts that we've been exposed to. When, like you mentioned, Loki, time slips again, and he ends up meeting variants of Mobius. Again, doesn't recognize him. Ouroboros doesn't recognize him. Casey doesn't recognize him. B-15 doesn't recognize him. But then you mentioned Sylvie, and Sylvie does recognize him. Now,
also they all have different names other than Sylvie. They all have different names.
Absolutely,
probably their real names.
Yeah. So we get the notion that they've returned to what their normal lives were, so to speak. And Casey mentioned that, the variant of Casey. When Casey met Loki after he escaped and was going to essentially sail off onto that little boat that they were about to sort of take onto the water, he mentioned, "You shouldn't be here." I sort of thought that, okay, so does he know what's happening right now? So I felt like maybe he does know what's happening right now.
No,
he doesn't, right? That's just a general sort of comment.
I think he means that,
like he
he
actually
probably
shouldn't have been
thinks
there right
he's
now.
another prisoner.
That's there, yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. I mean, I was just letting my mind wander there. But
no, it's fine. That's the whole part, the speculation part.
Absolutely. And then when he met the Mobius variant, he was selling jet skis, and it was funny because in Loki's conversation with Mobius's variant, he tried to break down the TVA, but he saved that for the second conversation that they had, and he said, "Look, you're a very important part of my whole world, and without you, we won't be able to save the TVA." I mean, Mobius is essentially confused. He doesn't know who this guy is. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. But again, Loki manages to display a time-displaced version of the same event. And then Ouroboros actually, or the variant of Ouroboros, actually develops a tempad after Loki gave him a book that he actually wrote at some point, giving him instructions on how to maximize his potential. So then he actually comes with a tempad, giving credence to the story that Loki is actually bringing. And I thought that was really sort of fun. So eventually Mobius is convinced that, you know what, this guy Loki, however crazy his ideas are, he's telling the truth. And again, we didn't get too much of a sort of intro with B-15. We just got a glimpse of the variant of B-15 looking at Loki, being absolutely confused. But then they all sort of meet up in one place. Before that happens, we come across Sylvie. And again, Sylvie does know who Loki is. She was there before that Big Bang event happened. But she's the only one that actually remembered who he was. And for me, I feel as though she might have also had a hand in orchestrating all of this. I mean, you know, especially because of the fact that she ended up back in that McDonald's. So that was the life that she was sort of content with. She goes back to the same vehicle, whether it was the same or different vehicle. It's very sort of reminiscent to the earlier episodes that we saw. You know, so she clearly has some sort of an attachment to that timeline, to that period. But what we see after that, for me, is where everything sort of got to that next level. Loki begins to control the art of time slipping. And for me, just the concept of that was truly, truly fascinating. Because, look, as far as we've seen so far, this show has provided us with some understanding of what time slipping is. You time slip when you don't belong to that particular time, and therefore, because of the rules and the fabric of and the laws of time and space, so to speak, because you shouldn't be in that time, yet you are occupying that time, you're essentially maneuvering in and out of that particular time period. And it's obviously a very painful process as well. And that's what this show set up time slipping as. Now, Loki, to some degree, has learned to tap into that. But Ouroboros plants those seeds into Loki's head by, I don't know if you remember in the episode, but he said, look, notice the places that you've been time slipping to. When you time slip
to places that you want to go.
Exactly. So subconsciously you've been thinking about Mobius, you've been thinking about me as OB, you've been thinking about B-15, and those across every time you could have possibly ended up in, you've ended up in timelines after time slipping where variants of each of those characters exist. So whether you know it or not, you are, like, there's a method to this madness. So Loki learns to sort of work with that.
It's the America Chavez thing.
Yeah.
Because Doctor Strange, his explanation was like, no, you've been using your power intentionally, subconsciously, intentionally this whole time.
Yeah.
Because you've been taking us to places where we need to go to.
Absolutely. So then, Sylvie, Loki, the B-15 variant, Mobius, Ouroboros, everyone, they meet up. Because the only way we're led to believe by Ouroboros that those characters can actually go back to the point before the Big Bang to stop the spaghettification of everything from happening is if everyone sort of combines their aura, whatever that means, guys. Again, some of these concepts aren't explained too well, so what we're led to believe is they all need to be at the same place at the same time so that they can actually end up at that point in the past. But again, how can you end up time slipping or going back in time to a point where everything is erased? Because in my mind, guys, that Big Bang was such a powerful event that it literally ripped reality, it ripped time, it ripped everything as we knew it. Know it, I should say. Wait, you know what? Even our tenses are going crazy.
Yeah, but we don't know that.
Correct.
That only really destroyed the TVA, and the TVA's whole purpose is to keep the sacred timeline alive. So time still exists outside of that. It just destroyed TVA. So there is no tool to control that sacred timeline.
But my only thing coming back from that is, if it destroys the sacred timeline and it destroys the TVA, surely by extension that should mean...
No, it doesn't. It didn't destroy the sacred timeline. I think
But did you not remember all those branches spiraling out of control?
No, yeah, those are still branches, right? The sacred timeline still exists. They went to the sacred timeline, episode 1 and 2, I think, right? To find Brad or whoever. So the sacred timeline still exists. It's just that there are branches off of the sacred timeline too. It's just that I think the explosion. This is the thing. A lot of it isn't explained. I'm going by what they've shown me.
Yeah.
Your version of the show could be factual, could be true, but we haven't really seen that.
Yeah.
We've only seen an explosion happen, and my reading of that is TVA is destroyed. So there is no apparatus to control the timelines.
But doesn't that mean that everything by default spirals out of control? Because I mean, it's their purpose to help maintain some sort of stability, you know? And without that, I mean, look, I feel as though without that, I mean, we saw all these sort of timelines being ripped into nothingness. I mean, Sylvie's timeline was being, the whole McDonald's timeline, by the way, guys, that's the one I'm referring to. It was being ripped into nothingness. And then when Sylvie decided to go back to the point where, you know, Loki was, because she was reluctant to get involved in this whole sort of project that Loki had, but you know, eventually she came around. She joins Loki, Mobius, Ouroboros, Casey, and everyone else, and they decide, okay, cool, let's work on this plan to try and go back to the point where, well, should we just call it the Big Bang? I feel like for the purpose of this, it's a lot easier to sort of, you know, signpost it.
Yeah, so we're trademarking that event as the Big Bang.
So they attempt to go back to the Big Bang, but before they can do that, even they get spaghettified. However, what's really interesting is Loki does something there that we've never seen him do before, and he actually manipulates the art of sort of time slipping. Then he goes back while they're discussing their plan to go back in time to the point before the Big Bang, and he does something crazy, and he actually decides that he has this ability, and we don't know how. Like you said, there's no real sort of explanation that, you know, we've been given to sort of indicate how he's acquired this ability, but he's learned to sort of maneuver himself through time slipping, and he's ended up before that Big Bang, and then obviously that's where the episode ends. So again, my questions: how did he acquire that ability? And does this mean that they can truly reverse or prevent that Big Bang from happening? And if they do, what are the implications of that? Because surely the fabric of time and space has already been ruined to an irrevocable point. I mean, after everything we've seen so far, do you really think everything can be reversed with a click of a finger? Because I don't think it's that simple anymore.
I mean, if that happens, there is no multiverse saga, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that it's meant to happen. I think they'll probably... Anyway, what I wanted to say, because we can't linger on this discussion too much, we have like other topics to cover. I think it would be interesting to just delve into what you think will happen in the finale.
Okay.
Because maybe that will answer the question that you asked.
Okay, so look, I think if justice means anything, then we're going to get some sort of heroic triumph in the end of episode 6. So I feel as though they're going to come across so many hiccups. They're going to fail in preventing the Big Bang from happening, but eventually they're going to succeed. And what I think might happen, we're going to get Renslayer and Miss Minutes back, and I think they're eventually going to help everyone. And I think we're going to get, Victor Timely's going to be there as well, right? Because we assume he was obviously there before the events of the Big Bang anyway, so he'll be there as well. I also think we're going to get a different version of Kang showing up, one we've never seen before. I think we're going to get a truly evil version of this cat, worse than, I mean, He Who Remains was quite benevolent by his own sort of imagination, but I think we're going to get a really evil version of Kang arriving towards the end. So after Loki and everyone, you know, actually thinks, you know what, the TVA's back, everything's good, Loki knows how to time slip now. No. You have messed up. I was actually about to use the F-bomb, but I'm not gonna do that. That's when I think a crazy version of Kang is going to arrive on the scene. And if you remember what happened in, I'm gonna just sort of bring in Ant-Man 3 for a moment, Quantum Mania, because in that movie, when Ant-Man says he's called the other Avengers, we don't actually see anything happen as a result of that. We didn't see the other Avengers come. And obviously they wouldn't be able to sort of access the quantum realm in the same way that, you know, Ant-Man can or any of those other characters can. But I think the arrival of this new version of Kang is going to be that version of Kang that unites every other evil variant of Kang to launch this multiversal scale war, which is going to eventually bring in Avengers from every other universe as well. So do you remember the was it the post-credit scene of Quantumania where we see all
The Council of Kangs.
that's it, the Council of Kangs. I mean, I think there could be, for every sort of Kang there was, the multiverse is massive. There are also an equal number of Avengers.
Maybe there's a Kang that's not played by Jonathan Majors.
Well, I mean, there was a frog version and a lizard version, so I'm pretty sure there was definitely an alien version of him. But yeah, I mean, look, we could see the return of Tony Stark. We could see the return
As Kang.
No, we could see him as Doctor Strange, and we could see Benedict Cumberbatch as Iron Man. You know, we could see some really cool stuff. I know, maybe I am.
Episode 6 that they haven't even.
I know. But again, I'm not saying we're going to see that in episode 6, obviously.
Let's just stick to Loki episode 6 for now.
I just think in that post-credit scene, if there is a post-credit scene in episode 6, we're going to see a really, really evil version of Kang, and the floodgates are going to be open for that inevitable multiversal invasion or war, whatever you want to call it. That's going to be the pathway to the Avengers Kang Dynasty. So that's ultimately where I'm at. I think in terms of what's going to happen in that episode, we're going to see some characters die. I think Mobius goes. I think
maybe Black Widow dies in this one.
I think Loki goes as well. I think Loki dies.
Potentially.
The reason I say that is because I think he's had his redemption arc now, you know? So after the events of Dark World, where he helped Malekith unleash devastation across Asgard, where he...
That's not the same Loki.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But in our minds, it's still the same sort of character, you know? And he didn't get his redemption.
I would say
he did in Infinity War.
In Ragnarok as well.
You're right.
I would say
you're right.
And in Infinity War, yeah.
But I think this is going to be just that little cherry on the top, you know? That ultimately signifies that, you know what? We know where he is in history now.
This is a completely different Loki, and this Loki is only really going by like the footage that he's seen being lived by future Loki, the one that dies in Infinity War. I personally think, maybe he could die, sure, but the way Marvel works, the way Disney works, if anything works, you don't kill them. So it's probably unlikely that he will die.
Yeah.
My prediction is, I mean, we gotta move on, but real quick, my prediction is that he basically becomes He Who Remains. That he probably decides that, you know, He Who Remains, the original one, was right. That there needs to be someone who keeps like TVA to stabilize all time, right? And then the events of episode 5 maybe I guess informs Sylvie as well that maybe he was right all along.
But do you think they share that role? What if they become They Who Remain?
It could be that. It could be that maybe they can keep each other in check and not abuse that power that comes with being at the end of time, really, obviously. So maybe both the Lokis, they become like the guardians of time, and they control TVA. I mean, rumors are that TVA does show up in Deadpool 3. So we know that TVA. Okay, I say we know. There's a very good chance that TVA still exists when Deadpool 3 comes out.
Yeah.
Who's in charge at that point remains to be seen. I don't. It's probably not Renslayer. I think it probably will be Loki and Sylvie. Yeah, in terms of prediction, I was talking about how maybe the whole episode could be like a Groundhog Day kind of thing, where they keep looping and looping and keeping trying like different sort of solutions until they get the right one to fix the temporal loop. And maybe Loki's time slipping comes into play here, where maybe he's able to, rather than sending Victor Timely out there, maybe he's able to go out there himself as a sacrifice, but then he realizes that because of his time slipping, the radiation isn't decaying him, and also maybe he just survives the whole ordeal.
I can definitely see that.
But again, the very good thing about this show, obviously, in terms of output, it's probably like up there in the MCU. Really, the show, the quality is so high, and the writing is so good that we're still speculating. We've been speculating all throughout the season, and it's fun when you're excited about a season finale. It's good to have that back. We'll see what happens. Obviously, next week I think we'll contribute the whole episode to Loki, and go just like we did for Ahsoka. We'll review the whole season. We'll probably have, fingers crossed, we'll have answers, and there will be a lot more to talk about, and what the implications will be going from the finale.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk about that more next week.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I have some bad news for you, Zach.
Go for it.
Our audio recording failed again. So we're just, I don't want to cuss, but we're looking like idiots holding the mic. So we can put the mics down if you want. If you want to rest your hand, we'll just rely on the camera audio. We have like maybe six or seven more topics that we need to cover. We'll do the Guardians thing, and we'll jump from one space to another, that whole montage. Real quick time. I don't know how long we've been going for. We'll try to cover everything as much as possible. There was a recent Variety article. It's long. It's quite long, and it covers a lot of things. But we picked a few major, no pun intended, a few major topic points. The first one being how MCU's in trouble, partly because of this whole Jonathan Majors issue. And the VFX issue. There was some stuff with the Marvel's reshoots and stuff as well. So let's start with the Jonathan Majors thing. Obviously, with the ongoing case, there's a possibility where he's not available to shoot. Whether or not he's guilty, obviously the court will decide that. Oftentimes, even if he's guilty, the court. Anyway, let's not even it's too political. But there's a possibility where he's not. The whole multiversal saga. He's like a major part of. And you're coming into a possibility where he's not available to be part of it at all. So the Variety article sort of indicates that Marvel has looked at other possibilities. Some one of them includes recasting Kang altogether. Because it's a multiverse, you can argue that maybe in another universe, Kang looks completely different. Loki and Sylvie look completely different, for example.
But you see, remember in the Council of Kangs, we saw infinite versions of Jonathan Majors' face.
That's true.
Plastered everywhere in that Colosseum-looking arena.
That's true.
So if we randomly get a different version of Kang, look, at the end of the day,
it's not unprecedented.
You're right. Look, if they have to recast him because of the circumstances surrounding Jonathan Majors, then they have to recast him.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I prefer that than
unless you video calls from like a jail cell.
But honestly, I prefer them recasting than them shoehorning Doctor Doom in, because Doctor Doom has not been introduced yet. He hasn't been built up. He hasn't been hyped enough just yet. His name hasn't even been mentioned. Hell, we haven't even got a mention of the Fantastic Four yet. Apart from Reed Richards brief sort of cameo in, well, it was more than a cameo, but in the Multiverse of Madness. So, for them to sort of introduce one of the most formidable villains.
He was the first guy who got spaghetti.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But for them to introduce the most formidable villain, because I think he is the most formidable villain Marvel has. Well, definitely top 3.
No, it's Big Wheel.
Yeah.
And then everyone else.
But for them to bring in Doctor Doom without developing the character, it won't do him
We
any
should probably
justice.
preface this by saying that's one of the other things that the article suggested.
Yes.
That the
yes,
MCU
yes.
even considered maybe veering off the Kang path and maybe directing the path towards Doom, essentially replacing the big baddie to Doctor Doom, which is entirely believable. I mean, Doctor Doom is a major part of Secret Wars, which is what the saga is leading up to as well. But the movie before that's literally called the Kang Dynasty.
Yep.
They would probably have to completely can it for the whole Doom thing to even make sense. But forget Doom. Fantastic Four isn't even a thing.
Yeah.
Really, we've seen one of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And even that is like a variant from different to the 616.
Yeah.
If there is a 616, which is we haven't really seen him yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so one of them was recasting Jonathan Majors. The other thing was maybe just going the Doom route. If they do recast Kang, who would your ideal pick be? I'm interested to know.
It's a very good question. Wow. John Boyega wouldn't be a bad choice. I know some people won't like that idea. I don't think it would be a bad idea. I think that's a decent choice.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
I agree. So I think that would definitely be a good sort of choice to go with. I think if they want to, if they want to have maybe like an older version of Kang, they can bring in. Well,
they could maybe hire Samuel Jackson with an eye patch and.
Hey, I was actually gonna suggest maybe Kang being a different race, because at the end of the day, in the comics, he's never. Well, look, race was never really a central part to the character of Kang, because yeah, exactly. But I was gonna say maybe Bryan Cranston as a really older version of Kang would be really, really cool to see. But again, look, if they wanted to keep in line with
the race of the actor that
plays him.
Yeah.
I mean, Denzel Washington hasn't been in the
You
MCU.
say that. A lot of people have been saying maybe just have different variants of and have different black actors play Kang.
Yeah.
So John Boyega could be one of them. John David Washington could be one of them. And then you could pave the way of having Denzel as an older Kang.
Yeah.
Right. Which would be cool. I know John David Washington can handle a big movie clearly, but he's still unproven, I guess. It's just a shame because Jonathan Majors is so good.
Yes, honestly, he is just perfect for that
role. Should have
role.
just kept his hands in his pocket.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's just move on to the next one, I guess. There were some issues regarding the Marvels. I mean, this is old news because the reshoots happened quite a while ago, but there were reshoots. And normally, when you do reshoots on a movie, it's usually backside.
Yeah.
I have to check what the reshoots were about. I don't even know if that was publicly made available what the reshoots were. But apparently during post-production, Nia DaCosta, who's directing the Marvels, went off to basically shoot another movie. Now that there's a Collider article that disproves this, but it's basically what Variety is saying and what Collider is saying, and I'm leaning more towards Variety, who was saying that she went off to shoot another movie. Now, when you're given responsibility to shoot a $250 million movie,
you shoot that movie.
Yeah, and you deliver.
Yeah.
You deliver, and then you go off and shoot any other movie that you want to shoot. Right?
Yeah.
Which is fair. You're a director. You wanna shoot other movies. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know. I think I'm leaning more towards right here. I don't really know if that's true because Kalila came out and said no, that's not true at all. She finished post production, and then she went off. But it's not really looking good. I know the Marvels it's expecting to debut at like $80 to $100 million or something domestically,
Yeah.
which is like half of what they were expecting with other movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Marvels was doomed from the beginning, and the reception wasn't really great from the first movie. And given that it's a sequel to Secret Invasion, or rather, Secret Invasion sort of leads up to the Marvels. It's not really something. It's not really a solid foundation to go off. Like, are you looking forward to the movie?
Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying, and I hope you guys aren't offended, but if you Captain Marvel fans are offended, just get over it. Look,
Zach is a misogynist.
Yeah.
We should clarify that.
Yeah, I am,
There should be a
guys.
disclaimer here. Zach is a
a
misogynist.
massive one. No,
Yeah.
I'm not, guys. I'm not, guys. That was just a joke. But look, Captain Marvel for me is the worst character I've ever come across
Well,
in the MCU.
In the MCU, okay, let's just clarify that.
Yeah.
Because I love Carol Danvers in the comics.
I agree. So, in the Marvel comics, Captain Marvel is an amazing character. Badass.
Yeah.
In the MCU, she is given such an elevated status that she does not warrant one bit. Captain Marvel should not be as powerful as she is. She should not be able to take a headbutt from Thanos and just not even flinch, because that's just not realistic.
She did get punched.
She did, but that's with the Power Stone. My thing is, if Thanos punches you, if this was anything like the source material, yeah, and they didn't honor the source material in this part, and again, look, guys, I always say you don't have to stick to the source material if it serves making a movie as best as it could be. So look, if departing from the source material makes the movie better, then by all means, go for it. But it didn't do it here, because Captain Marvel took a headbutt from Thanos and didn't even flinch. That's just not what would happen in a fight between Thanos and Captain Marvel, guys. That's just not what would happen, okay? Now, look, we have a character like Scarlet Witch. Her reputation and her power is fully justified. For me, Captain Marvel's power and her scaling and where she sits like among the elites, and she's the most powerful superhero in the MCU, it hasn't been earned. For me, the Scarlet Witch, her powers are justified by her history in the comics, what she can do. It makes sense. She has the ability to warp reality, and when she really learns about her abilities, she can do things that no one can even fathom. Now, guys, look, I'm not saying Captain Marvel is not a powerful character, because she is, okay? But this is how the hierarchy should be. I think in most Marvel fans' eyes, and in comic book terms, I think you have Hulk. I'm talking about powerhouses and all those sorts of things, yeah. But you've got Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Hulk, and Thor. Those characters are the elite of the elite. Captain Marvel is a tad underneath those characters, not infinitely underneath those characters, but just a tad underneath those characters. And I don't think I'm saying anything controversial by that. But again, the question was about my anticipation for the movie Marvels. I'm not looking forward to it because, ultimately I know that whatever obstacles Captain Marvel faces, she's going to overcome them relatively unscathed, most likely. And that's it. Hip hip hooray. She saves the day, and that's it. Woohoo. Go Captain Marvel. And I'm not with that. And I don't think most, long-term, long-standing Marvel fans are. But again, I can't speak for everybody. I can only really speak for myself, and that's my take on the movie. And I'm not going to sit through how long is the movie? Do you know what the
It's
screen,
like
screen
3.5
time is?
hours or something like that. I don't
It
know.
can't be.
It's usually I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably 2 hours. Safe to say it's
Yeah.
probably 2 hours.
So you know,
I can check right now.
yeah. So I mean, ultimately, guys, in my sort of conclusion, I'm not sitting through X
1
amount
hour
of time.
45 minutes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm still not going to sit through that amount of time just to watch Captain Marvel
Well, we have
slay.
We have to. We gotta review the Marvel.
No, we have to. We're probably going to end up watching it, but
Yeah, but like in 3 months. No, I think we should watch it.
yeah. And again, let me just say, Captain Marvel in the comics, absolutely amazing. My first exposure to the character of Captain Marvel was when she was known as Miss Marvel in the original X-Men animated series, when Rogue, was having, nightmares about this character. And I don't know whether you remember those episodes in the classic X-Men animated series. Essentially,
that was like 50 years ago. I don't know.
it's all hinted that after Rogue touched Miss Marvel, that's how she sort of got, some of her powers.
Mm.
That's how she got the ability to fly and, the super strength and everything like that. Badass, man. Proper badass character. Badass in the comics as well.
Yeah,
But
I like Carol Danvers. I
Yeah.
like Brie Larson too.
I do.
It's just a shame that Captain Marvel, the first movie, to me it came off as very performative.
Yeah.
They were, I think, leaning towards the feminist side of things. I mean, that's fine if that's the direction that the writers want to take it to, but it just didn't. It came off as very combative, which is kind of off-putting for me. Like you watch a movie like Captain America, but those movies don't really sort of highlight the masculinity of
Yeah.
Captain America. It's just
Yeah.
he's just a hero.
Yeah.
So maybe they should have done that with Captain Marvel, where she's just a hero. She's not a hero because she's a woman,
Yes.
right? She's a woman. Maybe that plays into her morality a little bit, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie came off as performative to me.
And you're right. And honestly, what you just said essentially summarizes my objections to what they're doing with this Captain Marvel character. Look, just because you're a woman, your gender, doesn't automatically give you some sort of virtue or some sort of special status. And
I'm gonna stop you right there.
oh, do you think it does?
No. I don't want to get cancelled.
No,
3 episodes
neither do
in.
I. All I'm saying is, guys, Captain Marvel shouldn't be applauded simply for being a woman. Captain Marvel should be applauded for being an amazing character.
No, yeah, think about it. The scene where she comes down from the sky, right? Her like one-man army, kind of. If they showed scenes like that in Captain Marvel, we'll know that she's a force, right? Anyway, let's not. Okay, I think we're going off on a whole.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Right.
like we said, guys, we're not trying to get cancelled 3 episodes in. But again, what we do comes with an element of being honest and offering our opinions on these things, and that's what we're trying to do to the best of our.
Like, we don't really
Amazing.
want to screen our thoughts, because this is. I think that's more challenging than just to be true to what our opinions are.
Yeah.
Because imagine like having to put that sort of, I guess, acting on for like a whole career. That doesn't really work like that. That was like that was the Variety article. We'll link it. We can link articles now, thankfully, in the description. That wasn't working for us before. We'll link the article. It's worth a read. It will take long, but it's good if you want to know what's happening on the like inside MCU. Other news: Mahershala Ali almost dropped out of Blade. The guy who is supposed to play Blade almost dropped out of his own movie. And here's okay. It gets worse, right? He almost dropped out because apparently the latest script put him in like as the 4th lead of his own movie. So apparently they were going to be. This probably doesn't help coming off the Captain Marvel talk, but there were going to be female leads that were going to get better sort of plots in the movie, I guess. And he wasn't going to be a significant figure in his own movie, which, I mean, a movie called Blade, if Blade isn't really top choice, it's not really a good Blade movie, I don't think.
Yeah.
So Mahershala Ali almost dropped out, but that's apparently being sorted now because they've hired a new writer. This isn't new news, but it's just that he almost dropped out a few months ago, and then they hired a writer, and now news is coming out actually what is happening behind the scenes. The writer they hired, it's Michael Green, I believe, who wrote Logan, which is, I mean, we love Logan.
I think honestly, top 10 comic book movie of all time in my opinion.
Yeah.
Probably low on that list, comparatively speaking to the other movies, but definitely up there. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you that. We are coming out with our, top MCU movies. We're going to be ranking them.
Yeah.
We haven't forgotten. That is coming.
When
at some
there is
point.
no news,
Yeah.
when there's no episode to talk about,
Yeah.
we'll do a video where we're just recapping all our our top MCU movies.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to go into Star Wars and stuff, like the top 10 Star Wars properties, not just movies, because there are TV shows out there now. Anyway, but that's for later. That was the news. It was so shocking that I don't think this movie's ever coming out, bro. I honestly.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a movie that I've been looking forward to for a while.
They announced it 7 years ago.
Something crazy like that. But look, the MCU needs a dark arena and a dark part of its universe. It needs that gritty, element where you get characters like Morbius.
It's Mobius.
Mobius. No, it's not Mobius. Oh my god, we can't cross. Morbius, guys.
Yeah, it's Morbid time.
And look, Blade, Wolverine.
I mean, we might be
Ghost
seeing more
Rider.
of that now. That's gonna be our next topic. We'll get into that. But yeah.
But we need that part of the MCU, because while we have, well, I was gonna say Captain America, we don't really have Chris Evans anymore. Yes, Anthony Mackie. No, we do. But what I'm saying is, guys, while we have the friendly camera-facing heroes that everyone's so proud to associate themselves with and look up to and be inspired by, we also have similar sort of people but working on an underground level, doing the things that these heroes won't do, to preserve peace and stability. And again, Blade is one of those characters where he does what's necessary. Okay, he doesn't do it in a pretty way, but what he does is effective. What he does is dark, and at the end of the day, what he does contributes to keeping the wider world safe. Now, I like you, I've been looking forward to this movie for a while, because I think
the original Blade movies were so good.
We need a Wesley Snipes successor, and who better than Mahershala Ali, man?
They tried with Ryan Reynolds.
But honestly, look, I haven't seen him in too many properties, but from what I have sort of seen of him, his acting chops are perfect. Hell, he even looks like Wesley Snipes a little bit.
You're just racist.
You can't say that, but maybe I am. No, I'm joking, guys.
A misogynist and racist? Double trouble.
But, at the end of the day, this movie right here, hot on my to-do list, and I feel as though this is something we should be looking forward to. And look, the problem that we alluded to is symptomatic of the wider issues I mentioned earlier. Why was he being pushed out of his own sort of property and made to be, and made to work in a subordinate position?
It doesn't even make sense. If you were saying that they were doing like a Midnight Suns kind of movie or a TV show where he's like a supporting role kind of character, that makes sense. Where if they said, oh, they're basically doing Blade, but they're just folding it into like a Midnight Suns movie or something like that, that would make sense to me. But it's still called Blade, and he's not. He's not. I mean, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Imagine Winter Soldier or Falcon being like the lead, and Captain America's just in the background. That doesn't really work.
No, absolutely. So look, ultimately, I'm with you on this.
Yeah.
You know, I feel as though he should be given the respect he deserves and actually sit where he deserves in terms of the movie and his importance to the role that he's about to play.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think Marvel needs more ground level sort of heroes, I guess, which I guess goes into the next topic. I mean, the trailer for Echo came out, who's also maybe that would, because I mean, Netflix had all their heroes were pretty much ground level heroes: Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. Marvel needs to have that. And Echo, I mean, you saw the trailer. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Very gritty,
Yeah,
very dark. Love seeing Wilson Fisk pop in as well.
yeah.
So he sort of takes a really young version of Echo under his wing and trains her, molds her into this, you know, dark, killing, relentless machine type of character. And I love that. This is what the MCU needs more of.
Yeah,
because
we saw a little bit of it in Hawkeye, and that was promising.
Yeah, and it's very reminiscent to the Daredevil show.
Yeah, the Netflix.
You know, it reminds me of the atmosphere that show sort of developed and the vibe and the rawness of what happens on a sort of daily basis, away from, you know, hammer wielding characters who can summon lightning with a click of a finger or turning into a green raging monster or shooting lasers. No, there's something simple yet satisfying about watching someone get shot with a normal pistol, watching someone get punched in the face until they're bloody and their teeth are falling out.
Yeah, that happens to me every day.
But this is what we need.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is the reason why it seems gritty is that it's the first MCU show that's M-rated, which is basically, it means it probably won't have some graphic sex scenes or anything like that. Probably not. But it basically means that there's going to be a lot of violence, a lot of bloody violence, which is, I shouldn't say that's good, but it's new for Marvel.
Yeah.
And maybe this will pave the way of something like, I mean, Daredevil's obviously coming out. It's having its own problems, but Daredevil's coming out. Daredevil's coming out. And we'll have other shows like that. Maybe, Deadpool as well is probably going to be M-rated too when it comes out. And maybe it just informs, I guess the Blade development process. Maybe it helps. But yeah, I mean, even the title card for Echo reminds me of Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. I mean, I can't believe I didn't mention that. I also got strong Jessica Jones vibes from this particular trailer. You know, it definitely tapped into some of that sentiment as well, because we saw. Look, Jessica Jones was, a character that was sort of disenfranchised, sort of
an outsider.
Didn't really belong.
Yeah.
Didn't really belong, and we also get shades of that with Echo as well. And I think this show is going to take a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be high.
If it has the same sort of vibe as like the Netflix Daredevil shows, I think it's going to be a hit. Which is what I think that's what's exciting us. I think I'm looking more forward to Echo than I'm with the Marvels.
Oh, absolutely. Likewise.
which is odd because I don't really know too much about Echo. I know her powers and stuff, but I don't really know too much about her character in the comics or anything like that. As much as I know about Carol Danvers and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm more looking forward to Echo, the TV show. It premieres January 10th, I think.
Okay.
So just But this could also spell some bad news for Echo, unless it does well. Marvel has pretty much decided that they're not going to do any limited time or limited run series anymore. So these are basically shows like Miss Marvel and Hawkeye, shows that they only really expect like one season out of. So they just do one season. That's like a movie, split it into like 5 or 6 parts or whatever, and then distribute it to the streaming platform. They are not going to do that. They're essentially going to focus more on shows that are going to be like Loki, where they can continue the story on. Maybe Echo is like that, and it has a future just beyond the season that's coming out. Maybe Echo shows up in the Daredevil show. We don't really know. Maybe that whole part will be like the Mandalorian in a way, where obviously Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, the characters sort of cross over. Maybe it will be like that, where people jump from Echo to the Daredevil show, whatever. But yeah, Marvel's not doing any. The only reason why, because it's not really, it probably doesn't impact on Echo at all, because it's definitely coming out. I'm just worried about the possibility that there probably won't be something like a Hawkeye show coming out, for example. Not specifically Hawkeye, I just mean something that's like a new character that they just do one season of.
I'd love to see a Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
show.
like
Honestly.
the Ghost Rider, if they decide, oh, we want to do like a TV show, Ghost Rider, it would have to be a multi-season one. Otherwise, it won't get made. Which is, I mean,
could you imagine a Ghost Rider series with Morbius featuring, with characters like Daredevil, and Punisher showing up?
That's the thing. Maybe they should just do a Midnight Suns TV show. Or even like a Midnight Suns movie. They could do TV shows of Ghost Rider, and then Daredevil, and then Punisher, and then have them meet up for like a movie of the Midnight Suns or whatever.
To face off against Mephisto, or a really sort of powerful entity. And with Mephisto sort of being featured, you could also bring in Doctor Strange, because that's a universal level kind of threat, So again, I'm just going crazy with the sort of ideas.
But it's a common enemy for Doctor Strange. It doesn't even have to be like a universal threat. But I don't know. It's one of those. It's just that I think the MCU is having like a serious identity crisis right now. They don't really know which direction to take their stuff in.
Here's the thing though, I don't think the MCU is the only victim to what you're describing. I think everything movie-wise, TV show-wise, set to be released in the future, in the works right now, is going to suffer from some element of trying to appease people rather than focusing on the quality and the substance that it should be focusing on. So I don't think the MCU is the only, series of movies or shows that are going to be suffering from this. I think everything in future is going to suffer to some degree. I think the reason why the MCU suffers more is just because of how much attention the movies get and the shows get. Look, I mean,
their output level is higher too.
Absolutely. It's a phenomenon. We've been attached to this stuff when we were in secondary school. I mean, even before that, since before the MCU existed, we were Marvel fans, and when the MCU existed, we were sentimentally attached to it. And when it started, when it churned out movies, look, when the Incredible Hulk came out, we weren't objecting to, I don't know, Betty Ross taking up the Incredible Hulk screen time. That wasn't happening. The movie was about the Hulk, and we got that. You know what I'm saying?
It was self-contained.
Exactly. Exactly. When we got Thor, we weren't worried about the movie being about Jane Foster. We weren't worried about
when is she gonna become Thor?
Yeah, exactly. And again, guys, let me just preface this by saying there is nothing wrong in making a woman the central
Why are
figure
we-
of your show.
Why are we going back to that?
What I'm
We're
saying
definitely getting
is-
cancelled.
No, we're not getting cancelled.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, guys, we need to. I feel as though the MCU needs to stop trying to please a small but vocal bunch of people, and it needs to go back to making its content amazing. Now, when you make your content amazing, it will speak for itself. You won't need to make performative gestures like we mentioned earlier, and like you said, the movie will be able to stand on its own because of its quality. And we can see contrived gestures from a mile away. So ultimately, what I'm saying is less pandering and more substance.
I think the perfect example of that would probably be Shang-Chi. Wait, Shang-Chi, is that the right pronunciation? I don't even know.
You're gonna get cancelled for that.
No, I'm pronouncing it right. I'm gonna get uncancelled. You didn't really see too many sort of scenes about them trying to lean into his Asian heritage or anything like that, or making Aquafina seem more stronger than she actually is. They actually show her vulnerabilities and stuff, and then she practices, and she turns out that she's also helpful in that fight, right?
But she isn't shown. Look, whatever she done on screen, in terms of her usefulness in the fight or in the battle against the villains of the movie, whatever she did to aid Shang-Chi, it was earned.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was like a nice moment where she ends up getting like the fatal arrow blow or whatever of the dragon.
Absolutely. What Scarlet Witch does is earn, because she just is that powerful.
But I think if you forget about Scarlet Witch, if you look at like Shang-Chi just in isolation, like the movie does have a female character who is strong, and there is like a tracking of Shang-Chi's sister basically.
Yeah,
There is a track of how she became so powerful.
A really cool character, by the way.
Yeah.
Really cool character.
Anyway, I think we're going off on a tangent. I think that's
that's another video for another day.
We probably won't make a video about.
I think we will.
I think we will need to name that video our cancellation video. When we decide to retire, I think that's when we'll make a video. I think
we're going to be forced to retire after this comes out.
Hey, Jonathan Majors.
Hey, what's up, bro?
Yeah. I don't want to linger on.
No, neither do I.
Yeah, on that subject, I think the whole identity crisis is like a major issue where, they are trying to appease a lot of people. It's true. But the other argument I'll make against that is if they stop appeasing people, you don't really have stuff like Miss Marvel get made. I don't really connect with Miss
But
Marvel.
who wants Miss Marvel? I mean, do you want Miss? I know it has a massive
We're
audience.
not
You're
the
right.
Average.
No,
audience.
you're right.
I'm
You're
telling
right.
you, the average audience of Marvel.
You mean today's Marvel?
In today's Marvel,
That's
yes,
perfect.
obviously. I'm not time slipping to 2010 or whatever, right?
I like that.
In today's Marvel, I'll say the average audience watches maybe 70% of the stuff that MCU puts out. I'm telling you, they actively avoid, like, we will watch the Marvels, whether it's in the cinema or whether 2 months down the line or 3 months down the line when it's on Disney Plus or whatever, we'll watch it because we're generally passionate about these things. I know for certain a majority of MCU fans probably won't even bother with a property if it doesn't interest them, right? They're not really too fussed about scratching that itch. So literally, I'm talking about the average MCU fan. Sadly, I don't think is too interested in. The only people who are going to be watching these videos are not going to be your average MCU fans. I'm saying these are people like us who are sort of like, even if they don't like something that the MCU puts out, they'll still watch it, right? The way we watched Obi-Wan, even though it was hot caca, right? We still watched it. We still sort of pushed through it because it's Star Wars, right? I think that's the current. I think that's caused by the identity crisis that the MCU is having. That it's diluted the audience base, has diluted the fan base, and in an ideal world, what you will have is output that is at least good.
Yeah.
But we've had quite a lot of stinkers recently, and maybe this is course correction. Maybe rethinking Blade. Maybe rethinking putting out limited series on Disney Plus, and rethinking some scripts, or rethinking casting, for example. Maybe that's them trying to put things right.
Yeah.
Because Avengers earns 2 billion, but Ant-Man doesn't, right? But they want to earn 2 billion for every movie. That's not how you get there. I think you'll probably reach a point where Avengers doesn't even earn 2 billion because all the other movies are not great.
Yeah.
So you lose fans, even the average ones.
To that, I'd say, in response to that, I think the appetite for a movie like Avengers right now would be fever pitch, because I think the fan base craves something of that quality once more. You know, because I think because of all the, like you mentioned, because of some of the stinkers that we've seen over the past few years, I think the urge for a movie like Avengers is fever. Because look, I really want an Avengers movie. I want to watch it tomorrow. If Kang Dynasty was out tomorrow, I'm there. I don't even want to see a trailer. I'm there opening night. I don't care. You're there opening night as well.
I might not be.
But you know, you get my point on this, because ultimately what I'm saying is those movies had heart, you know, and
you're going by past experience.
Yeah.
My fear is that given how things have been happening, they release an Avengers movie and it's awful.
It won't be though, because they can't. Because they know.
No, we thought Multiverse of Madness was going to be amazing.
It wasn't too bad though, was it? I mean, it was okay.
It was okay, but we didn't think it was going to be.
You're right. No, you're right. Multiverse of Madness wasn't.
Would you be okay with an okay Avengers?
Oh hell no. I wasn't okay with Age of Ultron. You weren't okay with Age of Ultron.
No, it's my favorite movie.
Yeah. But you know, honestly, Avengers, Infinity War, Winter Soldier. That's the level that we need to start hitting, and it's not easy to get there, because those movies are 3 out of, how many are there now altogether? There's about maybe like 24, 25.
What MCU movies?
How many movies are there right now?
We're at like 32 or something.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
I mean, we had 21 or 22 was Endgame. And we've had
crazy.
10 or so since then.
You see, that's crazy. I just completely erased the last, how many years of movies because of how non-memorable it's been.
Yes.
No Way Home was great.
Some of them you can't even count as movies, honestly.
Yeah.
They were home videos
that
they released.
See, No Way Home, I really enjoyed. Volume 3, I thought was really good.
That's been the best so far.
Yeah. So, look, guys.
Shang-Chi.
Good. What we're saying is the good movies are there.
Yeah.
But the stinkers are slowly starting.
The bad movies are there too. Is the problem.
Yeah. And look, the model before was 5 good movies, 1 bad one. 4 good movies, 1 bad one. Or something along that line.
I remember that sort of chain of movies that came out that didn't really have, since like the Dark World.
Yeah.
They didn't have a single stinker. Up until probably like Captain Marvel, right?
And that is literally why the Marvel universe is where it is.
That was what, 5 years? 5 years. To go 5 years releasing like 2-3 movies a year and not having a stinker is.
Yeah. And you got to remember, after the Dark World, so in 2014 we had the Winter Soldier.
Guardians.
And that same year we had
Guardians.
was it also an X-Men movie that came out that year? Technically, I know it's not MCU. Was there an X-Men movie that came out that year, or was that in
Days
2016?
of Future Past came out 2014, I think.
Was that 2014 or 2016?
2016
16 was Apocalypse. You're right. You're right.
And then 18 was Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, let's not talk about those.
No, that was like a TV
awful
show.
movies.
That was a TV show. That was a DC TV show. I think.
Yeah.
We've gone on way too long in this. I think this is like 1.5 hours or something.
Yeah.
I might split it into 2 episodes. I don't really know. Anyway, I think that pretty much covers all the stuff that's happened this week. Sorry this went on for too long. We just went off on it. That's how passionate we are. We just go off on tangents. This happens every time we talk about these things. So this is probably like close to reality really for us.
And guys, on a serious note, we're not trying to get cancelled, but you know, we're here to
please tell your friends.
Yeah, honestly, we're simply here because we're passionate about the source material. We have a great deal of respect for Marvel and a great attachment to the properties, to the characters. We grew up on this stuff. We love this stuff, and
like if a Marvel movie is bad, you have to wait like 3 or 4 months for another one. Those 3 or 4 months, all you're thinking about is that bad Marvel movie, really. That sounds sad, actually. All you're thinking about is that bad. No, I promise, we have other shit going on in our life. But yeah, what we essentially want at the bare minimum is a good or an okay Marvel movie. I think we can work with an okay Marvel movie. But yeah, anyway, thanks for. I was gonna say thanks for bearing with us, not just thanks for watching us. Next week we'll cover the entire season of Loki.
Yes, we will.
I think we'll dedicate the entire episode to Loki. If there's any news, too bad. Maybe people writing news, maybe just hold on because we're not covering that next week. And yeah, I think we'll hopefully like some of the stuff that we addressed about Loki today, maybe they get sort of answered during the finale. Maybe our predictions come true. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thanks for joining.
Thank you guys, and we look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be back with more content, and we really appreciate your support. So please like, subscribe, watch, share, promote. We really, really appreciate it. Your engagement means the world to us, and we again hope to see you tune in next week.
Yeah, if you'd like us to cover something, like if you've seen something on the web, just write down in the comments and we'll try to address them.